Hello, and good morning for Aiden and I at least, and welcome to episode 24 of the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. Aiden, how are you doing, fella?
Not bad. You're right. It is early morning for both of us, as in like we woke up within the last half an hour, I think. Here we are ready to kind of hopefully do an abridged one. Just to get through the necessities here, James. We got to check the boxes, and we have a Stanley Cup final, so that's pretty cool. It's a Stanley Cup final that I feel like I can passionately care about too, just because I so much would rather see Florida win the cup than Vegas, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am going to I think I agree. I have things I'd like to see on either team. I mean, I'd love to see Jack Eichel hoist a cup. I'd love to see multiple players on either team hoist a cup. But I think between these two teams, we're just going to have an incredible Stanley Cup final. But before we dive into these, we have a lot of conference final hockey to cover because I have to say, like, I feel like we've been really spoiled with a lot of great hockey. And I had one of my friends say he kind of tuned out this round. And I was absolutely shocked that a diehard hockey fan tuned out a bit this round because every game has just been great. Every game has had so much storyline to cover.
I find myself in that position sometimes though, right? Like, and I'm surprised I was as attentive to these conference finals as I was, just because already in most years I start to, like I start to kind of lose the grasp if I don't have a horse in the race anymore by now. Just because it's if you watched the first two rounds the way we both watched them, you're already consuming a lot of hockey. Um, so it not that it gets old, but it is hard to just maintain that level of commitment to watching it. So I actually expected me to not really follow as closely, but I have, which is good. Um, and yeah, for me, it's like I think I remember saying this like before the conference finals that I almost didn't want any of the four teams to win the cup, so that wouldn't have helped either. In the course of the conference finals, I think I have fully jumped on the Florida Panthers bandwagon though. I'm ready to prowl with them.
You're ready to prowl, time to hunt,
Yeah.
as their social media team says.
By the way, quick shout out to the social media team of the Florida Panthers. Some of their like graphic design work going into the series, I think a lot of it did go semi-viral at least. Like it's very cool. And it's a lot of stuff that I'm looking at that like, that's my job. And it's like, well, never in a million years am I touching that. Right? Like,
Definitely. And just before we actually dive in and we're just going to cover on this episode. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode than usual. We're just going to cover pretty much what we've seen throughout this conference final. I feel like we'll keep a lot of the off-season coaching and general manager swap news until the next episode. Just kind of looking at how much time Aiden and I have. I believe he's catching a flight back to Alberta today, and I work today as well. So yeah, this is gonna be a bit of a rushed one. But yeah, before we dive into the actual games, I just want to wish my condolences to my friend Caleb's bet. Caleb put $50 on the Carolina Hurricanes to win the cup at the start of the season, I believe, before any games were actually played. And pretty good. Pretty good. Better than any future bet other than Colorado I've ever had on winning the cup. And yeah, I won't deny that I told him to pull out is at the very start of the Eastern Conference final. I said, do it, take your money and go because could have pulled out for a couple $100 profit, I believe. But way she goes. That's the gambling game. And yeah, it didn't work out, but I know it was definitely fun along the way for him. So my good friend Caleb, nice try. Back to the drawing board. So I think Aiden and I are going to start off in the Eastern Conference, and reasonably so. I want to say, even though this was the shorter series, I had more fun with this one. This one was overtime, drama, excitement. It was just these games had me on the edge of my seat more, I want to say. Probably the most of any series really this playoffs. I felt although Carolina was facing some key injuries as they have been all playoffs, I felt that they just played with so much drive, and I felt that with how the playing style that both these teams were running, I felt like this was probably the most evenly matched series that we could have seen in the conference finals. This was two teams that were just complete buzzsaws. The Hurricanes and the Panthers were just relentless teams through the first two rounds. And honestly, the hockey totally held up. It didn't disappoint one bit. Just before we dive in, because I believe we covered the first two games already, right?
Yeah, we last podcast we did the 2 overtime games, and then yeah, so we'll dive into game 3, and it was like all 4 of these games were 1-goal games, and like game 3 was literally a 1-goal game. There was only 1 goal in it. It was Sam Reinhart. And man, Sergei Bobrovsky, James, like he's odds on for my Conn Smythe. Like Kachuk's gonna give him a run, but it's even, if he continues to play to this level and Vegas still beats them, there's a solid Sergei Bobrovsky Conn Smythe case as the losing finalist if he plays this well.
I want to agree with you, but I wonder if we don't have the same kind of voters that used to actually vote for a player on the losing team. I wonder if that's still a thing that's possible.
Well, I think it depends. Like Vegas, Eichel's the leading candidate, I think. Uh, Aiden Hill has a case. Mark Stone has a case, but on the night, there's nobody that jumps out at me as like oh, this guy is the slam dunk if Vegas wins, right? Like it's pretty much, it's very much in the air, and there's not even and it's not because there is a bunch of solid candidates, but it's not, none of them to me are slam dunks, right? So I think the fact that the Knights have a bunch of, he could, but nobody that is jumping off the page at you helps the case for the losing finalist. But obviously we don't know yet who's who's winning, who's losing.
Definitely. But yeah, keeping it in the East for now, like you said, game 3, 1-0 shutout for the Florida Panthers. Sam Reinhart scores the only goal. What a playoff run it's been for this guy. Just his second time in the NHL playoffs, right? I believe. Yeah, second time. Last year would have been the first time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's this guy hasn't disappointed. Very high draft pick, damn near a decade ago now, which is absolutely wild to think of because I still very much remember him playing junior hockey. I still very much can picture a young Sam Reinhart on the Kootenay ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how time flies by, and yeah, this guy has played very solid. Like his playmaking ability, the guy has been clutch. He's been exactly as advertised for them, which is really, really cool to see. But then you kind of head to game 4, and like you see Carolina go into game 4, and you just think, all right, what is this team gonna pull out? They are down 3-0 in a series. What can we hope for? What can we hope for in this final game? And I just remember Jesper Fast. I watched this whole game start to finish at work. And when I watch these games at work, I have this little side screen, right? So I have no audio. So I'm completely relying on the visuals of the broadcast. And I have to say, they've totally held up. Broadcast has been solid. But yeah, Jesper Fast scores that goal. Teravainen scored his first goal of the playoffs coming back from that injury. And the Hurricanes had come back from down 2-0 in the game. They were down 2-0 in a game when they were already down 3-0 in the series. And they were just fighting for it. And that's exactly what you want to see. You didn't want to see a team down 3-0 in the series just take it lying down. You got to see them actually put all the fight they had in it. Sebastian Aho had a bunch of crazy shifts. You could see the Hurricanes bench was absolutely lighting up every big hit they had, every scoring chance they had. and you just thought, huh, I think they're gonna win this one. Like I said, Jesper Foss ties the game. And then the buzzer beater, Matthew Tkachuk. Absolutely clutch. But that wasn't really the thing that I found people were talking about the most after. That Jordan Stahl tripping call. What'd you make of it? The one that led to the ensuing power play where Matthew Tkachuk scores the goal. What'd you think of that tripping call?
I think that's been how the playoffs have been called, right? That's been the standard, and I like it because James, like, I was watching, like, even just watching a series like Vegas Dallas, and those two teams who, like, they are both very, very defensively sound. Like, Vegas's defense with Pietrangelo, Theodore, McNabb, Martinez is very good. Dallas is likewise, Heiskanen, Lindell. Um, and despite that, how high flying some of the hockey in that series was, right? I think that's a testament to the referees not really allowing the grab and hold, and allowing the interference, and allowing the pretty blatant penalties to go that we used to see just let go in the playoffs. So as much as, yeah, you can look at it objectively and say, well, that might not have been the strongest call. It might not have been the strongest call, especially for that moment late in the third period of a tied game. I don't have a problem with it because it's been how the playoffs have been officiated, and I think it's contributing to the quality of hockey we're seeing, because we're seeing the skill and the speed and the talent kind of lead these teams to success. So for me, yeah, I can see the flip side of the coin, where it's, did that need to be called at that point of the game? Maybe not, but it's been how the playoffs have gone, and nothing big.
Definitely. And then yeah, so Panthers end up winning the series. Handshake line, no real drama in it, just a lot of excitement and a lot of solemn expressions on the other end. And that's always one of the things that's most beautiful about the handshake line. It's absolute excitement and drive and determination and ready for what's next. Just elated players on one side, and on the other side, it's, are we going to be together again? What does this mean? Just pure defeat in 20 something expressions. But the best part about that handshake line is when you see another player look a player on the team that just won in the eyes and say, "You go get him. You go win that cup." And even if you don't hear it, you just see them mouth those words. That's always been so magical to me. That's always been one of my favorite parts about this sport. When a guy could have just battled for between 4 and 7 games and hated every fiber of another player's being, then he can look him in the eye and completely honestly say, "You go win that cup." I just love that. There's nothing better than that. It's just, after that, you can just toss it all to the side. And even if you hate the guy, you can just go, "Yeah, I hope you go get it." But yeah, moving out west, unless you have any other comments on that Eastern Conference final.
No, just again, I think we led with Sergei Bobrovsky, and he deserves a ton of credit. I also just, I pointed this out yesterday to my dad. It's 2014 draft was a very strong draft, and it was deep, and all year there was a consensus top four picks, and those four guys went top four. The Florida Panthers have three of them on their team now. They drafted Aaron Ekblad first. They acquired the second overall Sam Reinhart from Buffalo, and they acquired the fourth overall Sam Bennett um from the Calgary Flames. And the trivia question I have for you, this should be a slam dunk. Who was the other member of that top four?
Imagine if I didn't know.
After I said this should be a slam dunk.
Yeah, Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, let's go west.
Wait. Actually, just before we go west, Charles Barkley, who's like one of the most famous hockey fans in the world now, just because of how that's been covered lately. Did you see how he pronounced Sergei Bobrovsky?
He didn't say Sergei Bobrovsky. He said a collection of syllables. It was in no
Sir,
coherent way Sergei Bobrovsky.
Sergei Bobovka.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good. Babovka. Oh man. Honestly, even if he had done it on purpose, no one would have cared. That was just gold. That was just perfect. And I listened to his interview on the Spit and Chicklets podcast recently, and just talking about his career and talking about how he loves hockey. That guy is a legitimately passionate hockey fan.
If you're looking to get into the sport, to me, World Juniors is the number one thing you watch because that is the most like
Raw and
playing.
emotional.
Yeah, it's the most playing for passion and playing for the love of the sport that the sport ever is for anybody. Like, like maybe some Olympic hockey might rival that, but overall it's the emotion of the 17, 18, 19 year olds who are just playing for their country is to me it's pretty unmatched, but playoff hockey is a close second.
Definitely, definitely. But yeah, I think just yeah, moving over to the West, it's I had no idea who was gonna win this series. I really didn't.
Well,
This
I
one
think
was a coin toss for me.
I think we said it. We said it was going to completely depend on what Jake Ottinger showed up because there was multiple different versions of Jake Ottinger that we saw from the beginning of the season to now. And James, I remember when we were doing our 2017 redraft and I said Jake Ottinger has had spells where he's looked brilliant, but for me to really get behind him, I need to see something on a consistent basis. And all season into the first round, it looked like he was that consistent goaltender, that consistent rock for the Dallas Stars. And in rounds two and in part in round three, he was not that at all for the Dallas Stars. And I'm not saying that that's the reason they lost. There was some very strong players in the Dallas Stars that did some very silly things. Um, we haven't talked about the Jamie Benn suspension yet. Hey, James. And for me, that's definitely something to factor in. As much as Dallas did win both games without him, that, like game three itself could have gone very differently without that play. And so for me, I think Vegas fully deserved to win this series. I thought the Dallas Stars fight to push it to 6 was admirable. Joe Pavelski scoring the overtime goal is going to remain probably one of the moments of the playoffs for me. But I think the better team won.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I think I just remember I tuned on that game right away where Ben made the play, I guess you would call it, that eventually resulted in the suspension. I remember looking at that and going, "Oh God, Mark Stone's back." That was all I could think of. And then I wasn't sure what kind of penalty was going to be called because I wasn't sure what you would call what he did. I was trying to think of a specific rule. It just looked like clear. I'm going to slightly hurt this guy and keep him on the ice for a minute. What did you think of it?
Well, similar. I kind of had a similar outlook to the Petrangelo one, and this is my attitude with any play that's gonna face supplemental discipline. If the clear intention of the player is to injure a player, which I think is pretty evident in this situation with Mark Stone. I obviously don't like it, and I do have the opinion that as much as you can, you should. I didn't think he should be playing in the series. I thought he should have been suspended for. I would have said 4 games. It happened in game 3. He ended up getting 2, which is admittedly kind of more than I expected him to get. So I was pleasantly surprised with that.
You can't even really call it two. You can't even really call it two. Realistically, it was three because it happened less than 2 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and
They look at time
no,
served.
they do. Yeah. What did you think that suspension was okay?
Yeah, I thought it was totally fair. I didn't really see anything wrong with it. Like in the end, it's 3 games of a conference final, which I firmly believe that the deeper you get into playoffs, each game is worth more. Because you can't weight it the same way as you do during the regular season because it's not based on pay. During the regular season, it's how much money are these guys missing out on. During the playoffs, it's okay, how many more chances like this are there ever going to have these games are significantly more important. Like I damn near weight playoff games 3-1 to yeah, I think in my head at least one playoff game is pretty much worth three regular season games.
No, I know
But that's how I
I
feel.
know that's a pretty common mindset, pretty common outlook on it. Um, for me, it's the lot. Like again, if you to me, there's a line between suspendable play, honest mistake, and suspendable play intent to injure, right? And I think suspendable play, honest mistake, I would agree with you. Suspendable play, intent to injure, I don't. I think you have to again. And I know this doesn't matter. I know on paper it shouldn't and it doesn't, but in my head I'm also factoring in that is Jamie Benn going after Vegas's captain, right? And I think that played a part into the Petrangelo thinking for me too. It was he went and tomahawk chopped Leon Dreisaitl's arm. It wasn't anybody. It was Draisaitl. And Benn didn't go after anybody and cross-check them in the neck and pile drive their head into the ice. It was Mark Stone.
Yeah, as one of my friends says, he saw the red mist. It was when the bull sees red.
Yeah.
He just goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of weird to watch. And like as I've said, as I said, this is one of these games that I watch without game audio. So I only saw the visual. And honestly, I feel like it felt all that much more striking to me only seeing the visual because it gets replayed over and over again, and that's the only part I'm seeing. I'm not hearing anyone dissect it. It was just, oh wow, that's a lot. What did you make of I mean, uh Vegas ends up winning the game. What'd you make of Benn not speaking to media after
Didn't he? He did.
post game?
Well, he didn't post game because there was a hearing coming. I get that. I understand not wanting
Yeah.
to talk to the media when you have like a supplemental discipline hearing like coming up, right? Because you don't want
Okay, good. I completely agreed with that.
yeah.
I that's exactly what I thought of it, and I saw people making a huge fuss of it on Twitter, and someone I mean people make a fuss on Twitter about anything, but one reporter I can't recall who it was posted a picture of Ben's parked vehicle turned on after the game after he didn't speak to media, and I just thought I wouldn't really want to talk about it right now either. You talk about it after the hearing is the hearing and the suspension, whatever they may be, are decided.
Well, James, if I'm gonna be honest with you, my kind of more my beef with Benn and talking to the media was when he actually did what he said, because there was no like accepting responsibility at all. It was him. What did he say? He said something to the effect of, "Oh, I wish I hadn't fallen on him like that," as if that was the whole play. It's like, no, you cross-checked his face into the ice, right? Like, and you already got suspended for it. Like, I'm not saying we need this Todd Bertuzzi-esque public apology. I'm not looking for that, but I'm looking for like something beyond dismissing it as tripping over and falling on him, because that's what he did, and I wasn't a fan of that personally.
Totally fair. And moving on, we get to game 4, and Vegas scores early, I believe, and you just think, "Oh, is this done?" And Stars put up a valiant effort without their captain. Joe Pavelski scores in overtime. With that goal, he became the leader among active playoff players. Or sorry, playoff goal leader among active players in the league, rather. And I believe it's 73 playoff goals he has. That put him one ahead of Ovi, a little bit ahead of Crosby and Malkin. And I just thought, wow, that is so cool for a guy who has just been an absolute workhorse his entire career, exceptional teammate. Um, I just think that's a really cool little feather in his cap. I think I'd much rather see him hoisting the cup and getting to eventually, hoist the holy grail of hockey. But regardless, that was a pretty cool little note. And you get to game 4. Sorry, you get to game 5 rather, and you just think, okay, what now? What is going to happen now? And then the Stars pull out like just a spunky 4-2 win. Ty Dellandrea scoring 2 goals. That is so wild. I just thought, is this actually going to happen? Are they going to keep coming back? And in games 4 and 5, Jason Robertson probably played 2 of his best games that I thought all playoffs. Um, this is a guy who was one of, if not their best player during the entire regular season. You could argue it was him or Heiskanen or Hintz throughout the regular season, but Robertson was one of the most dominant players for stretches during the year. You kind of wanted to see him, dominate in playoffs, have a huge game where he is the X factor. Yes, he had points. He was pretty much a point per game going into those 2 games that I just mentioned, into game 4 and 5. But there was never a game where he completely took over. And I think game 4, I think he had 12 shots on goal. Like the guy was just a man possessed. Like he wanted to prove something, wanted to step up. And that's what you love to see. That's something that you will think of going forward when you see Jason Robertson in future playoff years. You're going to think, "Oh, he has that ability to push it forward, that ability to take it to the next level when it matters most, when his team's season is on the line." And so that's something that was a really big silver lining for me as well. And then I guess in my third and final silver lining for the Dallas Stars, before we go on to the game where they were ultimately eliminated, was that Jake Ottinger showed flashes of brilliance again after struggling at points during the second and third rounds. What'd you make of it all?
I think Robertson needed that game. I think a lot. I think he would have faced a lot of criticism, honestly, James. Like I don't think there was splitting hairs. I think he was their best player in the regular season. That is giving Heiskanen some credit as well, like giving him a shout out, honorable mention. But Robertson was their guy, and he hadn't been performing in the playoffs. So for him to at least kind of show up when it mattered and you know fight the Stars back into the series to begin with, that was good for him. Yeah, I know. I led this off by saying the better team won. I just think I don't. It seemed like Dallas didn't have it left, right? It seemed like they didn't have it left in the tank, and losing games 1 and 2 in overtime. I actually don't think you come back from that. Sorry, like I don't think you can.
Well, we talk about them getting eliminated. Ultimately, it is a blowout, a 6-0 win last night. So that's Monday night for Vegas. And what questions do you feel like that leaves for the Dallas Stars, just briefly? Because we're going to go over all these teams in the offseason, but what are they missing? What's needed? What didn't they have other than gas in the tank that you mentioned?
That's really hard because they seem like a pretty complete team, right? I do think a priority for them in the offseason, like they just went to the Western Conference Final, right? So it's hard to say blow it up at this point. I think that Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn money could be reinvested more effectively elsewhere. I just don't know if that management group is going to have the even the motivation to do that when you had such a successful season, right? Like the torch is being passed. I am big on what is, you know, getting the most out of a player's value. And to me, Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin's value in a trade right now is more than A, the value they're going to bring on the roster down the line, and B, any value you're going to get for them in a trade in the future. So I think capitalizing on that value is the best thing to do. I just don't know if the Dallas Stars management group is going to be motivated to do that because there's no glaring holes they need to fill, right? If there was like they need a goalie or, they need a defenseman, maybe utilizing those assets to get that. But overall, for the Dallas Stars, I think it's run it back and hope Joe Pavelski has another season like this because his seasons like this are numbered, but he continues to churn them out. So until age catches up with him, you got to assume that he's gonna fight his way through.
I'm much of the similar opinion, other than the fact that I don't really think it's going to be possible to trade either one of those players without sending out multiple assets just in the hard cap league that we live in. I just don't really think it would end up happening. Sagan, a lot of money, a lot of term, unfortunate injury history. Ben, less term, I believe, slightly less money, but captain of your team as well. I just I don't really see it happening. But if I were to have a wish list for them, I would say like a really, really solid transitional game, opportunistic. That was really difficult. Opportunistic hockey playing. Decent score, like a 20 goal scoring winger or center for their middle six. I'd like to see that.
I think that is going to be Wyatt Johnston for years to come. I think he's going to be the perfect like second line complementary piece to the Hintz Robertson
Oh,
top
I already
unit.
factored them having him in there.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to see another player added.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think Evgeny Dadonov was a pretty good like band-aid over that for these playoffs, but I do think they
Totally.
need a long-term guy to be Dadonov because it's not him.
Well, I just looked at their lineup when they didn't have Ben or Dodonov in, and it just left me wanting something more, and reasonably so because they're missing two goal scorers, two pretty key players in their lineup. But yeah, that's really my only thought on that one. I guess just right now, Stanley Cup Finals preview. Who do you got? How many games?
Florida in 7, man. I think Florida breaks the Knights' hearts in Vegas. Sergei Bobrovsky is my Conn Smythe guy. They have the 2012 Kings Magic. We talked about that. The only thing, James, that's like giving me pause, and it's because I'm a big like, oh, history repeats itself. So I do draw these comparisons to other teams. 2023 Sergei Bobrovsky, 2017 Pekka Rinne. That's the one thing
Hmm.
that I can't shake because it's Bobrovsky has a history of being fabulous and he also has a history of being inconsistent. So, remember Pekka Rinne looked like the slam dunk Conn Smythe winner going into the 2017 Stanley Cup final. And then it was Yusei Saros who had to come in Pittsburgh in that series because Pekka Rinne couldn't play in front of the Penguins fans. He just was not very good. And so I think I am saying Florida in 7 because I have faith in Sergei Bobrovsky. I think this series lives and dies with him. If he continues to play the way he's playing, I think Florida can win it. If not, I look at Vegas and I say barely stronger forwards, barely stronger defense. It's the goaltending of the Panthers that has them taking it.
Yeah, I'm of a similar mind. I've Panthers in 6, but I've been wrong about I think every series except for two in this playoffs. So because I said that, that probably means that the Golden Knights are going to win the cup. But you know, either way, I'm really happy with the cup final that we're getting. I think Ivan Barbashev has cemented himself as the best trade deadline acquisition in the league this year. I think there's one of those guys every year where you can outwardly say that come the end of playoffs because, two teams get to play in the final, one team gets to win the cup. And yeah, I undoubtedly say that I believe that Barbashev coming into that Knights forward core and getting to form that buzzsaw of a line. I know I keep using that word buzzsaw, but I don't really know how else to describe it with alongside Eichel and Marchessault. That that's been one of if not my favorite line to watch all playoffs. These guys are so good together. They know where they all are. They can dump and chase. They can weave through with the line. Eichel can do a little shoulder fake and then drop it to the D. They are just perfect. They play such sound hockey to the point where they get the puck and you're just thinking, what are they going to do now?
If I had more time, I would actually for our Instagram. I don't have the time for this, but if I had more time, I would for our Instagram make a video compilation of Jack Eichel zone entries because we've talked about it and it got better in that series. I thought the way he sets up a play is phenomenal. He reminds me as a Canucks fan. He reminds me of Elias Pettersson because Pettersson does that very well, where he exploits the space on the break in and he, moves to the open space to set up and create. And that, that turned into 100 points for him and almost 40 goals for Andrei Kuzmenko this year. And Eichel's play. I know I said this the last podcast. I just wanted to appreciate him. He's playing the best hockey of his career, and for him to do it in the playoffs, it's a big accomplishment for him. And yeah, so we both have the Panthers, which means it's probably going to be Vegas, but we'll see.
Definitely. So quick question for you. Give me a wish list. Three things you want to see in this cup final off the top of your head.
Um, I think this is the easy number one. Just some magic, right? We saw a lot of magic in that Florida Carolina series. I'm talking the quadruple overtime Matthew Tkachuk winner, the Tkachuk winner on that passing play, and then him scoring with a couple seconds left. I want to see similar hockey that we saw in the conference finals all around, because Vegas, Dallas had some stretches where it was some pretty dead puck, but it had some stretches where it was super exciting, and Carolina, Florida was pretty high flying the whole time. Yeah. So some magic, some good hockey, and I think number three for me, honestly, is I do want Florida to win the cup. Like I feel like I do have a dog in this race now, because I don't dislike Vegas as much as I did in the past. I still am not a huge Knights fan, but it's a combination of not being a huge Vegas fan and buying into Bobrovsky and Reinhardt and Lundell, Ekblad, and yeah, and Matthew Tkachuk. Honestly, I didn't think this series, or sorry, I didn't think this season was going to end with me cheering for Matthew Tkachuk, but here we are.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one to look at least. I think a lot of the Matthew Tkachuk haters have turned around, and there have always been a lot of them because that guy's brand of play, that's what he does. He makes people absolutely detest him. It's a fairly interesting one to watch. And then next thing I think I want to see, um, there's boxes for me being checked off regardless. There are going to be players from BC that will hoist the cup. If it's Florida, West Vancouver, Sam Reinhart. If it's Vegas, Shea Theodore, I can't recall exactly where, from BC, and then Laurent Brossoit if he's healthy. I believe they have one more. They have another one, I believe.
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
No, me neither. But it'll come to me later on. Later on when it's not as useful of information. Um yeah, I can definitely agree with you for the Magic. But I'm gonna zero that one in a bit more. I want a heartbreaker of an overtime game and someone to just be a true hero, someone off the radar, someone give me like a give me like a Micah Matteo or I mean Nick Cousins I feel like is more likely, but like give
Yeah,
me
like
something like that, you know? Don't give me one of the star players. And then I also want an absolute dominant high scoring game, but not dominant in terms of the score sheet. I want like a 6-5 or a 7-6 win where both teams' top players are playing their best offensive games. I want one massive high scoring game like
a
that.
valid ask.
Because and the reason for that one is because I think we have an opportunity here where there could be a lot of people watching a Stanley Cup final this year that have never watched a Stanley Cup final before. This could be a formative moment where we bring in a lot of hockey fans considering these two markets.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's a good couple. So to wrap up, do you have trivia for me, or am I supposed to have trivia for you?
Um, I don't have trivia for you, but rather I will give you a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a question. Um, I want you to tell me your most exciting cup final ever and your least exciting cup final ever that you have watched in your hockey watching life.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's hard not to say most exciting Vancouver Boston 2011, right? Like that series was so back and forth. It had pretty much everything in it, and it went 7 games, right? And obviously, I had a horse in the race as much as I could ever have a horse in that race. So that I can't think of an easier one than that. And St. Louis Boston would be up there too. Just again, another one that went 7 games. For least, I think Tampa Montreal 2021. that one, Montreal got that overtime winning game for it, which was an exciting moment, but that series never felt like it was going to go any other way. It just was purely Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay, and Montreal holding on for dear life. Close second, probably 2012 LA, New Jersey. I can appreciate the LA Kings' defensive resilience, but like New Jersey, man, like I actually think the New Jersey Devils had maybe a scoring chance a game, singular. Like LA just locked it down. If you watch that Vegas Dallas game, the Vegas Golden Knights in the first period yesterday in their win had more grade A scoring chances than the New Jersey Devils had in the entire 2012 Stanley Cup final. Like, and like I'm not saying it. For me, the boringness comes from, again, and much like the Tampa Bay, it comes from the inevitability of the outcome. That's what I'm thinking, is the like less so about the hockey itself, more so about this series is going to end this way, and there was never really a doubt about that.
I think for me, just to answer my own question that I gave you, and like I'll give you valid points on that one, but I absolutely loved watching the 2012 playoffs start to finish. There was never a game where I felt tuned out. Um, Going right down to the bitter end, I absolutely loved watching that year of playoffs. It's burned into my memory. But I will say my least exciting, for me, just the way I felt relatively tuned out, and I think a lot of that is a factor of where I was at in my life at that point. I was coming out of the early teenage hockey watching and going into the all right, give me something here. And the just kind of focusing on other things in my life, spending more time with friends, just out doing whatever. As a 16-year-old, and that's one of your first summers with a lot of freedom, right? So, yeah, so for me, that one would be 2015, Chicago, Tampa. That one for me, I remember watching a lot of playoffs before that, and I watched most of the games in that final, but I remember just really not caring about the outcome whatsoever. I didn't care what happened. Yeah, there were a lot of great storylines, there were a lot of great performances, but I remember just not caring at the time. And like I said, a big factor that is just where I was at in my life at that time. But then I remember when the cup was actually won, I saw Kimmo Timonen hoist it, and then pretty much just say he's retiring. And there was just the pure joy in his face, that relief that, all right, I get to retire on top of the mountain. That key moment right there saved that series in that year of playoffs for me. That drew me right back in to the point where I went, okay, yeah, I'm in now. Now I'm gonna care about every offseason move. But yeah, that was a pretty big moment for me in an otherwise non-heartfelt final for me. I just didn't really care about it as much at the time. And then most exciting for me. I mean, it's hard for me not to say watching Colorado hoist the cup, and in part because that was against the two-time defending cup champ Tampa Bay Lightning, like the model team of the 2020s, you could say. Yeah, it was that was nothing but exciting for me because there was a blowout game on either end. There were very tight games. There were games that felt like a chess match. There were games where you were scared, games where you were stoked, games that were just a monumental performance from specific players. But I'm not going to use that because that's too easy of an answer for me. I'm going to say, for me, it is. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed, and this is just the ones in recent memory, right? I really, really thoroughly enjoyed Pittsburgh, Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Nashville was such an underdog, and they had so much spunk. They were playing Frederic Gaudreau and Colton Sissons in ridiculous minutes, just because they were without Ryan Johansson
And Mike Fisher, don't forget that.
and Mike Fisher.
Yeah.
It was that was a really cool year for playoffs, and yeah, it was I just remember that final every game had such good watching value, like the entertainment value as an impartial fan. I felt so tuned into the broadcasters, so tuned into the players' emotions. I just remember that being such a great series.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. Like, I think, and again, the easy answer to for me would be the Washington Vegas, not because it was a great series, it was a solid series, but again, it was just the fact that I really, really badly wanted to see Ovechkin and Washington win that Stanley Cup. So that definitely,
And that totally held up.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. We have one Spotify submitted one if you want to do that one just to appreciate the fact that we got some Spotify submissions, or one specifically. Do you want to do that one?
Yeah, definitely. Ask away. Let's hear it.
This is definitely something we should have prepared for. Um, Greatest hockey player of each decade from both of us. Where do you want to start with that?
Okay. Well, do you want to start? Okay, I'll start with the easy one because in the 2020s, so far it's Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
I don't really see that changing.
No, me neither.
Um, the 2010s is very difficult because that was kind of all over the place. You saw some time off due to injuries from Sidney Crosby, but you can't take it away from Crosby.
I was gonna say
Um,
Crosby is my
uh, my close second is Patrick Kane.
yeah. That's probably I would have probably gone Crosby, Ovechkin, Kane, but Kane won 3 Stanley Cups in that time. I think Jonathan Taves is very much up there too. Three
Yep.
Stanley Cups. Again, never the individual statistics of a Kane or a Crosby, but 3 Stanley Cups, captained his team to all three. Uh, three, and I think this is where my Crosby and Taves is above Kane comes in. 3 best-on-best tournament gold medals for Crosby and Taves. 2010 Olympics, 2014 Olympics, and then the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. They won in all three of those instances. 2000s, I think I'm going Alexander Ovechkin, James.
Even though he only played in half of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, but who's like Brodeur would be the only one that I actually think could like could stand up to Ovechkin. Mine's one Ovechkin, two Brodeur.
I can't give it to anyone that only played half of it.
Okay.
I that's just and not even half of it either. Like his first season in there was 05-06. So, one that jumps to mind for me right away is Chris Pronger. The guy was incredibly dominant start to finish in that decade, to the point where there was one couple year span where if you had Chris Pronger on your team, you got to go to the finals. 06 Oilers, 07 Ducks.
Yeah.
And then
No, that's a good one.
when Brian Burke was asked what was missing from his 06 Ducks team when they were eliminated in the third round, or maybe the second round, I believe the third round though, he said, we didn't have a Chris Pronger. And so what did he do? He went out and got a Chris Pronger. Another big one for me would be Joe Thornton. Joe Thornton is right up there. I believe if you go look at the top scorers of that decade, he is in the top three. Model of consistency over that course of time. But yeah. It's hard to have Ovechkin in there and not Crosby if you were to include Ovi because they played the same amount of time. One
I just
one of them won a cup, the other one didn't. One of them was won more individual hardware, the other one didn't.
Ovechkin was the first of his kind for me.
Right.
When I look back, and I like the most electrifying player, like 65 goals was, it still hasn't been touched in the salary cap era. Marty Brodeur, for me, it's the 2 cups, right? It's the leading his team to 2 cups. It's the being the best goalie in the league for a long stretch of that. I like the Pronger pick. For me, it's Ovechkin or Brodeur, but yeah, that's a good Pronger shout. Who do you have for the 90s? Because I have a clear one and a clear two.
For the 90s, it's really difficult. The 90s were a time that had a boatload of incredible players. You saw incredible dominance from guys like Solani, Sakic, Yzerman, Forsberg, Pavel Bure. Like there was a lot going on, like a lot. Yager, Yager is the one though, I believe.
That was mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yager takes the 90s. It would be Lemieux if not for the couple years off. I believe
Yeah.
2 years. 2 years or year and a half. Like I believe like accumulated nearly 2 years.
I had one Yager, two Sakic. That was my clear like 1-2.
Yeah, it's hard for me to do the 90s without it being a top five. But yeah, that's yeah. Being a hockey nerd, the 90s are very difficult.
I think it's a very easy 80s Wayne Gretzky answer.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Honorable mention Peter Stastny.
Peter Stastny, yeah. Um, I already have a Nordiques jersey, or else I would love a Peter Stastny jersey. That one. I'm not gonna get a second Nordiques jersey, but that one would have been cool. I'm happy with my Sakic.
Oh, and then also honorable mention for the 80s. You can't even mention the 80s without it. Mike Bossy.
Yeah, well, Mike, you could almost honorable mention Mike Bossy, and you kind of have to throw in a couple more of those Islanders, right? They won 4 cups in a row.
Yeah, Brian
Like,
Trottier was probably the best center in the NHL for at one point.
yeah, I was gonna say Trottier and Potvin,
Yeah.
right? Like it's yeah, they all deserve a shout for that.
You could say the 80s Islanders as one. It's that kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's like when people mention the Sedins together.
70s, I have a one in this situation
Me
as
too.
well. Who's your one?
Guy Lafleur.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, that's my number one. My number two is an
Guy
interesting
Lafleur
one.
eating steak and smoking cigarettes and his flowing hair is all that I think happened in the 70s.
Yeah, I have
Oh, but also Bobby Clark is in there for me as well.
that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna go Lafleur, Bobby Clark. I have to shout out Phil Esposito because he was unreal in that decade as well. But Bobby Orr deserves a shout. He played like half the amount of games as some of those other guys, but as a defenseman, he produced like
Yeah.
crazy. Won a
Yeah.
Stanley Cup. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Um we're really once we get to the 60s, we're really getting into some trouble
I
here.
think this is the last one for us. I don't think we can. I think this is it personally. And I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head. I would maybe go Stan Mikita. Henri Richard won a bunch of cups. Henri Richard remains the most decorated NHL player of all time when it comes to Stanley Cups won as a player.
Did Gordy not have an incredible decade?
Gordie Howe, it was, I think, not as good as his decade in the 50s, but yes, Gordie
Yeah.
Howe was a productive player still.
Yeah. Yeah. The Stan Mikita Bobby Hall inventing the curved stick and truly really revolutionizing the slap shot. That's kind of a big
Yeah,
deal.
Bobby Hall, yeah, they played together. Yeah. No, I think that's it for us. I think that's a good place to stop because getting into
Yeah, and that's also like the Jean Beliveau time as
yeah,
well.
God.
So, like, you could pretty much go 50s, 60s, 70s. Which Montreal Canadiens icon am I choosing?
Yeah, yeah, they were the team. They were the team to beat. You could, yeah.
But I still don't care when people tell me how many cups they've won.
You still don't care. But
Well, I care in terms of history, but not in terms of current relevance. In terms of hockey lore, I love it. But when someone comes to the table and they're like, "Oh yeah, well, how many cups has your team won?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, you were younger than me, and I've never seen Montreal win a cup. So your dad has never your dad's seen Montreal win 2 cups. You can say two. That's all you get." So yeah, that's where I stand on that. But I don't deny the history and the iconic moments and iconic people involved in that franchise. To the point where I damn near worship the ground that they walked on. It's stuff spoken about in legends, man. It's incredible. If anyone has a chunk of time on their hands, go on YouTube and search up a documentary called The Names on the Cup. That is without a doubt the best hockey documentary ever made in my hand or in my mind. Close second being the Broad Street Bullies documentary that was done. Um, yeah, the names on the cup. It focuses on the history of hockey and the stories of cup winners, going from the very start, the inception of the Stanley Cup, all the way up until Crosby's last cup, maybe Ovi's cup. But yeah, well, I think that's all we got for this episode. As promised, it was going to be a shorter one. I want to thank you all for listening, and I want to thank whoever keeps plugging those Spotify questions in. Thank you. That's awesome. We love the fan engagement. Throughout the off season, I expect we will do more fan engagement type things because, once free agent frenzy and the trades are over, we get into the dead season. It gets really quiet. So we're gonna do some fun stuff. I think. But yeah, Aiden, do you have any parting thoughts at all?
Yeah, so I'm gonna post another Instagram story. Then I didn't do it this time just because it was a pretty quick episode, but I'll post another Instagram story with the ask us a question button we've been doing. The other thing that I want to, and this is entirely up to the listeners if they want to have their voices on it, send us a audio message to the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast Instagram, and then we'll play that question on the podcast as if we're just answering it. Like your audio will play, and then we'll answer the question too. James is right. As the offseason goes on, the more fan engagement we're going to want to do. We're going to, after the playoffs, I think our goal for the summer, James, should be at least 3 guests. Like that's at the bare minimum, 3 guest appearances, because we've had 3. I want to have 3 more by the start of next season. Yeah, so that's coming, and the fact that we're in the Stanley Cup final, it's coming pretty quick. Like the off season is not too far away. So we'll do we'll do our mock draft, we'll do a awards picking, we'll do a run through, we'll probably do an episode on running through the Western Conference off seasons, Eastern Conference off seasons, but aside from that, I want to be guest heavy. Why not?
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I'd like to give our listeners some guests, and I'd like to interview some people. I wanna flex our hockey loving journalistic muscles and hear some good stories from people. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, anyway, I echo all that quite a bit, and without further ado, thank you for listening. Let's roll that outro. Cheers, guys.